Hello everybody. It's been a long while since I made a YouTube video. I just got off work at 1:40. I got home like 1:43 and a quarter. A lot of things have gone on this week. Some things good, some things bad. Mostly I'm not too happy about Barack Obama. This is a political rant. So it's affecting a lot of my friends and me because, everybody's wanting to cut people down to 30 hours a week because of the loophole of Obamacare, which is pretty nice way to have. I mean, he's Muslim, but a lot of people think he's just black. But if you got a black man keeping you down, like how ironic is that? I mean, really, after all the stuff they've been through, can't really say allegedly. The from like people born from 19, I'd say 80 up, really don't have as many prejudices as decades before then, but they all do exist, don't they? I mean, some people think, that women don't have a right to an opinion. Like I would never think that, but sure would be nice if they weren't loud all the time. But I'm not going to go there. What I would like to talk about though is um, how it's possible for us to let ourselves get to this point. I don't like it at all. It's very difficult to make ends meet as it is, but everybody's thinking, well, let's just raise the minimum wage. That isn't going to help. Because if you raise the minimum wage, then the price of gas is going to be raised. Like you can't honestly think that in 1980 gas was $1.88 and minimum wage was like three something. That isn't relative to the half rule. The half rule is something I come up with. It says a gallon of gas is always going to be about half of what minimum wage is, just to keep paying all the people. Like one out of every 10 jobs in this country is tied to a automotive field. So you got to think about it that way. If you want a better job or you want better pay, the government's not the way to go. You got to get educated. I've got to get educated. We've got to get papers saying, "Hey, we're educated in this field." That way, we can go and make better money. So that's where I'm at with that. Now, if I were president, you'd never have a redneck as a president that drinks till the bat's blue, but it'd be awesome because I would put parenting back in your hands. I would put everything back in the parents' hands because so much has been taken away from them. Starting with, but not limited to, ass whippings. I would put that back in the parents' hands. So many parents are afraid to beat their child. I'm like, why? Just do like my grandpa said. It was like 91 when the kid divorced their parents. And my grandpa looked at me and said, "You can call the law for me spanking your ass, little Paul. But when I get out, I'm just going to spank your ass again." So I thought that was pretty poignant, you know, straight, direct to the point. You gotta have parents that feel that they're able to take care of their children, just to show them, get CPS. CPS has a good point, but the family I married into uses it against everybody. So, you would think that you'd make little black boxes, little folders, little outlines for those type of people that call more than once a year on stupid people. Um, I would make all highways like completely speed free zone, and what that does is that makes everyone else more responsible for their own driving. It increases the tax revenue because the ambulances are being pushed out there because the morons that want to see how fast their car goes, and the cars break down faster. It just creates a snowball effect, and everybody has to become more responsible. And a lot of crybabies would be like, "Well, I don't want my kid driving as fast as you can." That's where the parenting comes in. You've got to do your fucking job as a parent. Teach your kids, hey man, the highway doesn't have a speed limit. You have a skill limit. You must know your own skill limit. I think the schools could be given the money that the congressmen are given, so that we can get our scientists back. Of course, America's had a long history of scientists coming over from Germany and Brazil and Africa and all the other places where they work for a lot less money than they come to America because, we need their brains and we can't, force them to do it. Trust me, as a nation that is trying to get everyone to be little worker ants right now. And all they want them to do is to go to work and back to work, and taking a 1 day vacation makes you feel good. Well, people used to get out on a cruise ship for a month at a time. The middle class people used to do it. The upper class still do it. That's not a problem for the top 1%. And the other thing I would do is I would just take your taxes and give them right back to you, because back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, even the NFL and the basketball players had part-time jobs. When they weren't on the field, they were stocking groceries. It's a true story. Like, I don't think anyone should be paid $1 million. And anyone who does have $1 million should be able to keep it. Anyone who has $5 should be able to keep it. There's no more tax check, tax refund. All that stuff would be done at a state level for the roads. There'd be no federal anything. Everybody would be allowed to have guns. If someone goes crazy with a gun, what solves it? You shoot that asshole, and you don't whine and cry about his mental disorder or her mental disorder. You just fucking shoot him. It's real simple. You should be able to do whatever it takes to protect your family. Case solved. And the jails, and that's no problem. And there's plenty of stuff to put the high profile predators to work doing. I mean, there's plenty of jobs out there that we don't want. Border Patrol, it's real simple. Once we reinstate that there's no more welfare system, that everybody gets every penny they work for, and they become socially responsible for their own wages and their own earnings, they're not going to want to come to America, because you have to work and be smart about your investments, because the government will no longer exist. And I think that takes care of the border problem. Yeah, pretty clear and concise. The taxes on your food, I don't think anything higher than a 7% tax on everything you know, would be like any, because we wouldn't take your federal taxes anymore. It would all be done at a base state taxes. Now the big brain scramble would be where the governors and where the congressmen would be rallying against me for president, because they want to keep their job. Well, you know what? Once we get rid of Congress Hall, I say we take care of the vehicles and the buildings, and we turn them into giant laser tag and paintball arenas. Why? Because they're beautiful buildings, so you might as well get good use out of them, you know, and run history tours through there and say, hey, this once held a whole slew of different countries and people that only had their own self-interest, and now everyone has plenty of wealth and plenty of ability to keep all their own money and take care of their kids. And as far as the people who have made a bunch of kids out there, 5 and 7 of them, and they're all by different daddies, hey, you're going to have to get a job. Those dads are going to have to pay that child support. You guys are going to have to make it work, because the welfare system no longer works. It hasn't worked for a long time. Food stamp program's good. I'm not saying it's bad, but it really doesn't reach the people who are destitute and homeless, because hell, most of them they're just trying to get $6 to go get a pint of booze, and when they need food. And a lot of people don't see it like that, but that's the way it goes. I mean, basically, I think after 20 years of this system being instated and no government, we'd be able to bounce back, and there'd probably be a lot less shooting. Because after all, if everyone has a gun, that's going to be maybe 1 or 2 uprisings, and that's about it. That's just the way it is. Each state can handle it individually, but I find that people will be moving to those states that accommodate their need. I don't think anyone should have the government looking in on them and saying, hey, you can't do this, you can't do that. The Federal Trade Commission, the Federal Communication Commission, all that stuff, that'd be next. It'd be up to each individual state whether or not they wanted to import shit from China or make their own shit. It wouldn't be federally mandated. A few years back, Firestone, I think it was Firestone, tires had problems with the Ford Explorers on their vehicles, blowing out the tire. Come to find out, a lot of those tires came from China. We always have recalls about Chinese stuff having lead paint in it. Substandard stuff. I'm not saying that all of it's bad, but most of it has a negative impact on my kids, negative impact on the future when cities are dying out. And, No, I'm not saying it's the best way, but sure be a whole lot nicer if you didn't have to worry about any dumbass just doing anything they wanted, because the justice system would be right there. If anyone, you know, if anyone like did any school shootings, it wouldn't be a problem, because 30 years from now, all the parenting that would actually have to happen, I feel it would go back to the 40s and 50s. People would take care of their own. People would take care of their own. They would cherish their stuff. They would teach people the value of something. You know, and that's just the way I feel about it. You never have a redneck in office, because there's just too much stupid stuff I've done. In my life, I've been suspended from my license like 12 times. You ain't gonna have that. I got a couple, run-ins with the law here and there. You ain't gonna have none of that, because everybody who's rich enough to get into office knows enough people to where that never comes up. So they're not perfect. They just hide it. And I would dismantle a lot of that shit. And all the Navy warships, we wouldn't fucking need them. You know why? Because the countries wouldn't be so eager to invade us once we stopped pissing them off. I mean, I think every Saturday, if you're at a naval port, you get a free ride to the next naval port. Why not? I think the penalty for like a car hitting a motorcycle should be, every month you got to write a check to that person's family. A small, minuscule check just to feel the pain. I read that somewhere, one of my adventure books or some shit. An alcoholic hit somebody and had to write a check every month for $1 instead of talk about the agonizing pain because he killed a whole family. So yeah, I think that's pretty well much it. I think they should have to live it every fucking day, because they aren't looking for people. Because people on motorcycles are just like everyone else. Definitely, I say no government, and I say that that there's really no need for us to tell you what to do. But I think that if a person hits you and they were on their cell phone and they had babies in their car, you have the right then and there to take those babies and wait till the cops show up and be like, hey man, because that's all cops would be for. They wouldn't be there for speeding anymore. They would be there for major drug trafficking violations, or dumbasses talking on their cell phones that kill their kids. Dumbasses talking on their cell phones that kill other kids. So, and even if you had people violently killing each other, guess what? It's nature versus nurture, in my opinion. The one that's strong survives. What do we do with senior citizens? We leave them the fuck alone. That's what we do. We don't take any more of their money. Once you hit 65, you don't have to pay taxes on your goddamn house anymore. You leave the old fucking people alone. They've got enough shit to worry about. Fuck, man. And the old people have become persons that you would protect in your family. Why? Because they are the reason you're alive. You know? That's that's where I'm at. You don't fuck with anything. If they've lived to be 65 and they've been productive members of society, they may or may not have had a few DWIs back in the 30s and 40s or whatever. Leave them the fuck alone. You don't get to 65 and have a decent life by fucking up. It just don't happen. So that's my little rant. It's a political one. But if I had any say, we would dismantle our government. We would make them all get jobs. You know. And if we did have to have a spokesperson, they'd have to buy their own vehicle and their own shirts, and they'd have to get reimbursed like the cops do. Because they're a public servant, they don't need to make 200,000 a fucking year for the rest of their lives. If they want Secret Service, then they gotta pay for it. If they fucking want to protect themselves, that's fine. They'll have a service issued fucking gun. Or if they test out, they can have their own gun, just like the detectives do. I don't think any one person's life is valued over the next. With the way our system's set up today, is the ants working for the queen, and I don't like it. It makes my life more difficult to enjoy my friends and my family. So that's where I'm at with that. There's probably like 5 million other things I could touch on, but most people don't watch YouTube videos past 15 minutes.